Oh my God, the sun is getting pretty severe here in an English country garden. Well, welcome back, Sandy.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
let's continue.
Okay. I wanted to go back and share a story as far as the childhood sexual abuse. Uh, I always remembered it, never forgot it. I was in second grade, so I would have been 6 or 7, and I was down the street at a boy that was 3 or 4 years older than me's myself's house, and we were in his bedroom, in his bed, naked, and he was trying to penetrate me anally, and his mom slammed open the door, and we both were very startled. And I remember at the time being embarrassed and disappointed that we got caught, because I told you that's
What age was you then?
I was second grade. I started school before I was 5, so 6, 7 years old. Seven
Right.
years old, and I had told my brother about it because it was one of his friends when I had my awakening, and he said, he's homosexual, and I think that that's something to do with the mother traumatizing him because he was trying to have sex with a girl.
I mean, you're saying that it was the trauma that made him a homosexual. I mean, this is an argument which
well,
a
we were
lot of
both-
homosexuals
yes,
would very much disagree with. That it's not as if it's something that you just made into.
I disagree with that because I've read some books and
What kind of books? I mean, obviously, there's going to be people very distressed, or no. I mean, this is a very
well,
distressing
see, James
subject.
Bartley does not want me
Yeah.
to say his name on any interview, and that's who taught me about the reptilians, how they go and they dream and they trick them. They'll put a beautiful woman in front of in a dream, and then it'll turn into a man, and then they'll penetrate the man anally, and then they'll think that their minds will become homosexual. And I mentioned I have 2 older sisters and 2 older brothers, and the older brother that's 5 years old is now passed on, but he was a very sickly child. I remember my mom saying, he was always at Dr. Ann's and Dr. Ann, and my sister shared a story with me when she was about 10, so he would have been 7. She's 9.5 years older than me. My brother Bobby was 5 years older than me, so there would have been 4-year difference between them. And he was hiding when she got out of the shower to peek on her. And my mom, these were her words, she goes, I always felt so bad because Mom beat the shit out of him. My mom beat him up. And my mom also jumped me as a child, and I never forgot that.
What do you mean by jump?
She attacked me and started punching me with her fist. And I remember the other 2 siblings and my sister.
What was that over? What?
Something I did, and my brother
Yeah, but
Bill.
can you not remember? I mean, surely. I mean, your mother must be really furious with you.
I probably. I would imagine I was arguing with my brother, and she decided to just pound me with her fist.
With all the other things that are going on, your mother didn't do that.
No, not at all. She did never, not
So
one time did my mother ever walk in on my cousin and I having all of that sexual going on night after night, year after year. And I remember hearing my brother Bill say to my sister Kathy, jump her, to get my mom off of me, because she was on me, pounding me. And I think that's one of the reasons I'll go into that. I took all of these horrible beatings from these men, these handlers. They would beat me. Like I've told people, I'm surprised I have any DNA left. I'm talking mangled my face. I have broken, chipped bones in my hands from protecting my face from being pounded by these big men. And I'm not very big, and they beat me like a rag doll. But I wouldn't leave. Most of for that
like
reason.
Sort of a Stockholm syndrome thing.
Well, from the specialist on ritual abuse, he said that's what they'll have the handlers beat you to set in the dissociative identity disorder, and it kind of helps with the fragmentation to get you off and to think you're not worthy. And I have no idea if my theory is actually right on the homosexual thing, but it makes sense to me that they push this homosexuality to off the charts, which it's always been around, but it's rampant now. And we can go back now. When my first husband was killed in the car accident, I had mentioned there's that Bobby Craven, a steam fitter from New York City, found me in the bar I was working in, and he immediately, we got together, we moved in together. He beat me, told me he'd never do it again, and I decided to travel to California with him. He beat me up there, destroyed all my furniture, wrecked all my clothes, and I went back to Michigan with my daughter, and of course Bobby was calling me and saying he'd never do it again, and my parents were like, we'll just keep Amy and you can go off and find yourself. And I went off with this man, and he got me on, I was shooting heroin with him, shooting cocaine.
You've done an awful lot of drugs.
I did a lot of drugs. I'm not proud of it.
Can you go into that whole part of your life?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the reason I did it is because I didn't want to face, because of the trauma as a child, but I thought that's what I was, and that, you know, I'm party girl. Yeah, and we were off travel. We would go through different states into Delaware. He cut my clothes. I had a job at a bank. He cut my clothes. He cut them all with a knife. Would do things, hide in the closet to try to catch me with somebody, and I just knew he was there. Opened the closet, and there he is hiding in there, trying to.
Ooh. Yeah.
There's some wind, and I ended up in New York City to live, and I became a legal secretary, and got my daughter back when she was about 5 years old. But before all that time, when she was with my parents, I recall exactly 9 times in 1 year I went back to Michigan, drove back and forth. The best mule is one that doesn't know they have any cartel, that doesn't get paid, there's no middle payment, and pays for the trip. And I counted the times I went between New York and Michigan total, it had to have been at least 40 times. And I never put it together that my second husband was set up, that he was a handler, and I was married to him for almost 7 years, but for 25 years, he would talk me into going back to New York. I would get to New York, he'd start a fight with me, so I would be like, well, I'm going to just go back, I'm not going to stay here, and I would drive back, and I'm sure that they were doing the exchange in my vehicles. He even talked me into going to New York for Thanksgiving weekend 2 years ago. That was profound, being there and seeing his behavior, how it's like he changed. When I was with him, 1 year I know he had at least 5 jobs because we forgot to file one of them, and I got a penalty and interest from the IRS 2 years later. Because when I met him, he was in the elevators, and he happened to get laid off and found all these other jobs. Now he's in the elevators, works for Con Ed, and makes $60 to $70 an hour. And when I was there, he actually bit me in the cheek, and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like laughing. He bit me. It was really creepy. And it seemed like he was a different person. And it was like his memory was downloaded, because he was like, I remember when we met in 1988, and as much as I love because he has another wife now who's much younger than him and 2 more children. As much as I love the little dude and the new baby, I would go back and be with you again. And I was like, I would never go back and do that all again. Throughout that marriage, he would start fights with me all the time. I mean, we would go to Boston for a weekend trip, big fight, all this negative energy. In San Francisco, he accused my daughter, because my daughter was 10 years old when I married him, because I had her in New York, and I had these different boyfriends, and I ended up falling in love with him. And he got me pregnant, and we got married. And we went on a vacation to California. And we get to San Francisco, and he says that he lost his money, and he accused my daughter of stealing his money from him, and caused all. I mean, that was very stressful. Everything with him was stress. That was why, and I felt guilty for leaving him for a long, long time. And I thought that all of these nasty men that were coming in my life, 2 years with this one, 3 years with this one, was maybe something to do with my divorcing him. But then I realized that it was all planned. And I was widowed and married and divorced 3 times. But counting the men, with the 2 years with this one and 3 years with this one, there's at least 14 men I was passed around, 14 handlers. And
Why do you call them handlers? Why don't you just call them ordinary, blokes you've met, and it just everything is just
because they were all the one would stole. You took my I trusted him. I gave him my PIN number, and he paid rent for me with my own money. He took withdrawal, I would be doing good. I did crack on and off for 7 years.
Give anybody
your PIN.
Your PIN number.
There was something very, very, very wrong with me. That I trusted these people. I loved them. Any one of them, if they would have been a better man, I'm sure that I'd still be with one of them. But I was always looking for the right guy, looking for love. And now I'm to a point, I got rid of I call him a handler, because that's Kathy, and I've read the CIA, there's much information you can find about this stuff if you want to look and read it.
Yes.
And I just lost my train of thought. And one of the, sorry.
No worries.
The crack thing. Actually.
This is crack cocaine.
Crack cocaine. Mm-hmm. Actually, it was my brother my brother did crack with me. My sister Joanne did coke with me. I had this very large house in Ferndale, Michigan, and my daughter was about 25 when she moved back in with me. The other ones were teenagers. And you can't tell me that they didn't know that I was in my bedroom smoking crack, that I would take a run across 8 Mile, which you do 10 minutes, get there and back. And they didn't hear me pull out the driveway, come in, and I thought I was, my oldest daughter, when it all came out, because when you're doing drugs, you don't admit it. You never admit it. You don't talk about it. It's a big secret. I ended up getting arrested. I ended up doing jail time for possession of crack, and my kids found out. And my daughter said, "Were you that good, or was I that stupid?" And I thought maybe a little of both. But looking back, no. And even after I came out of jail, none of them were like, "Mom, you better go get help. We're not going to talk to you. We're not going to be a part of your life until you show us you're getting help." They just knew I was with this other handler, George Husky, who found me in a bar and talked me into going to South Carolina with him after I had gotten laid off, and I let the house go. I went to South Carolina. He beat me up. He beat me like a man. I mean, just punching and stuff. He would get triggered. There was times where I said the wrong thing and he'd smack me. And for some, why did I stay? You know how much regret I have that I'm trying to go forward? But I keep saying, why would I have thought so little of myself? That I would take this abuse, the emotional abuse, the physical. I mean, I went through so many of them. That one punched me in the forehead, and I had this knot, and I went to work and told them that I fell. I fell. I was walking my dog and I tripped or something. I would make up stories. I should have had all of them arrested, or instead I covered it up. I was very good.
Now, is that part of your programming, or you just didn't want to?
I'm sure it's part of my programming. Just like the secret I always kept about that one girlfriend that I grew up with, and we were best friends from childhood. I did contact her last year and told her my story. That's when she confirmed that she wasn't a part of that group, kissing and doing all that. I told her about all the sex that I was having. She's like, Sandy, you never told me. I had no idea. I was like, I didn't tell anybody. I kept secrets all the time. And now I'm just going to share everything. I have no secrets. I have no shame. I mean, I can't have shame. I have regret, which I'm trying to heal from, and to say that this all happened for a reason. And I'm not still alive, because most that have deprogrammed to the point that I have already been eliminated. They will kill them at 40, at 50, when they're done with not being used anymore. And my last boyfriend or handler for 2 years, he would lie to me, and I just kept thinking, actually, his mannerisms were very much like interdimension, like an alien type mannerism.
What do you mean by that? Could you explain?
Oh,
I'll go and get some water.
Sure.
Do you want some water?
Okay.
I'll get you another glass.
All right, so I should just wait for you, right?
Okay. So while I'm doing that, if you...
I can explain it.
Yeah.
I can explain it. Thank you.
Okay. Aliens. Tell us about the aliens.
Well, I discovered a website, SherryShriner.com, and she talks candidly about the aliens and had many articles written, and I was like, I have been pursued by them. They will pretend that you're their best friend, that you're the great, all that in a bag of chips, and then turn on you. And their eyes will get slits in them. There's a lot of tongue flicking, back and forth. And then the last guy was with, his skin even. I would always notice on the back of the toilet, in the bathroom, lots of flaking skin. And Sherry wrote about that, and I lived it. And there's others who have written, there's a book called The Alien Love Bite, and I can't remember her name, Eva Thompson, I think. And she talks about how they will, they're very charming. They're very charming, and they're very good at deceit and lies, and they totally get their points for deceiving the innocent. And when
what type of aliens are you talking about here?
Well, there's many. I had a man I was also, like I said, I've had 14 handlers, 14 different men, and some of the 4 of them I married, and one I ended up. I was with George, who I was with him about 2 years, and that last beating was the end when I left. And through George's ex-wife, she asked me if I want to go do a survey. All you have to do is listen to music for 3 hours. So I went to this really nice hotel in Dearborn, Michigan, and was wondering why they're going to pay you $100. And I was like, well, that's an easy $100. I didn't put it to see. I was very, very naive until my awakening, and now I have a lot more intuition and questions, and I should never have done it. But we went to this hotel, and there was a seat for me with my name on it, with a little name tag. There was probably 50 people in there, and I put the headphones on, and I sat there and listened to songs for 3 hours. Then right after that, she has her boyfriend's cousin comes in from Alabama, and I meet him, and I'm instantly attracted to him. Instantly wanted to, it was like all the other ones, where immediately I jump in bed with them, and I think I'm in love with them, and I went to Alabama, visited, came back, went to Alabama a month later. Came back, and then he had asked me to marry him. I married him within 4 or 5 months, and he ended up getting me on meth. That was the last drug I did. I did some meth.
That's methadone?
Yes, yep, and that's very.
And that's a replacement for heroin, isn't it?
I'm so proud that I got off of it. I only did it a few months with him, and then I said I'm not going down that road again. But after we got married, he would not have sex with me. I'm positive he gave me some roofies.
What's a roofie?
That's where you have a drink, and they put it in there, and in a cup you have a blackout, and you wake up the next day, and you know something happened, but you can't remember it. And I knew he was not having sex with me, but there was so much. It was like I had been doing it all night, and I even went to a doctor, and I'm like, he says, oh, I do see anal tears. Yes, and even I went to a party with him, and I remember about 11 o'clock I had a drink, and then I had no memory of getting home. My necklace was missing. A couple weeks later, I was going through his phone, and there was a picture of me at 3 o'clock in the morning. It said the time and the date. That was that night that I had felt off, weirded out, and so I knew something happened. There was a picture of me under the moonlight, under the full moon, with something wrapped around my neck. And I was like, immediately, obviously, I was very upset, and I showed him. I was like, what is it? What were you doing to me? Because what were you? He denied it. He's like, where did you go? Where'd you go? And I'm like, these are the words. I said, I'm always up your ass. Where did I go? I'm always with you. And that traumatized me. And then I knew people were coming in and out of our house. I took my dog. I had a dog for 10 years. I brought Samson with me to Alabama. And within 2 months of getting married, he was killed, and right in front of me, they ran him over. And
that was the same trauma that you would get from the little dog.
Right. And I remember just screaming, no, and I ran out to the road, and I brought him in, and I was on the ground and crying, and I looked up, and he was laughing. And there was a time we were there, and
What do you feel about all these people who've done this to you?
Well, I used to think that maybe I'm being used to test the other souls that...
Why do you think that?
Because of being the servant of the Lord, and if you're, there's scripture that says, don't expect the master. If they treated the master bad, they're going to treat the servant bad. And I think that I was probably in other lives and in the other dimension, I was a servant of him, and they want me to think that they're going to just test that these people are being tested using me. Beware of what you do to one of his little ones, is Yahushua was line, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure that it's above just seeing if these people will repent, because I've called Tommy in New York and told him I know, and he will not admit it. None of them will admit that they're a part of this program and they did these things on purpose. I've tried to rebuke them and to have them repent, and
how do you mean by that? What do you mean exactly by rebuke, and get them rebuke? And
Well, for instance, my brother, told him, I said, Billy, I know that you did all these things and you were a contact, because whenever I would come back to Michigan, I always went to your house. I always did. And there was times when I noticed he was keeping me in the house because they were probably unloading or reloading the vehicle. I didn't put it together though until.
Right. For whatever stuff you were taking, being a mule.
Yes, exactly. And if Kathy says it right in her book, that's one of the reasons that they start these children like this. And of course, it was for all of that sexual energy they captured from me. And one time we were in the Ray Goodrich was my last husband, and we were in his house, and I looked on the wall and I saw formulas. And I said, "What's that?" And he goes, come on, we got to go." And when we came back, they were gone off the wall. And
can you recall anything about those formulas?
No. Three, kind of like Roman numbers. The 1V and equals and it was really weird. And he would often, his looks would change. His face would completely change. And I would look at him, and at the time I thought, I wonder if there's two of him. I used to think that maybe they're tricked because they put me really off guard.
What way would they change? Would his face change?
Oh, he would look like an old man sometimes, and sometimes he would look much younger.
In what way would he look younger? With his skin or his hair or what?
Just like I said, sometimes he looked really, really old, and sometimes he looked much younger. Or when I was there, he tried to make me think that I was crazy, and my clothes would get altered. Yes, his mother was a seamstress, and there's usually a mother involved with these handlers. The handler in New York, Tommy, his mother, Marie Burns, last time when I went to New York, her skin she was even peeling. And she never had a normal personality. She's always very cold. And Ray's mom, Sarah Owens, they owned a chicken farm, egg chickens. I mean, they had 2 chicken houses with 9,000 hens in each one and 1,000 roosters. And I went to work in the chicken picking up eggs. So we had to be there always at a certain time every morning. And we come back to the house, and I know that him and I, neither one of us were in the bathroom taking showers, and there would be a wet towel on the floor. So I started getting very paranoid.
What do you mean by the wet towel?
Somebody had to gone in there and taken a shower when we weren't there. Or the cabinets would be different, or food would be missing. And I had this one pair of trousers that I had for 5 years. I used to wear them to the office. And a girl knows her clothes, pretty much. And I knew, and I went to put them on, and there was belt loops on it. And I knew there was not belt loops on there. 2 weeks later, I went back in that room and saw them. The belt loops were cut off, just to keep me off balance, to keep me. And I got really depressed there. I had gone to Michigan to visit my kids, because I did probably 6 trips in 1 year between Alabama and Michigan. See, they love to do that. They'll get their victim from another state and have you go back and forth. And I went to Michigan, came back, all of my stuff was gone through. My papers were all shuffled, my clothes were all out of the drawer, all over. And I got really depressed, and I had these low milligram Xanaxes that because I didn't take them, and so I took them. And there was about 25 of them. About 2 hours later, I said, "Ray, I took these pills," and he's like, calls poison control, and I was like, "I'm fine. Look, I'm still talking." Well, an ambulance comes, 2 police officers came. And they're like, "Ma'am, if you don't get in that ambulance, we're going to arrest you." And I said, "Well, then arrest me." So they went to put the cuffs on, and I had the flashbacks of being in jail, which is not a productive thing. So I said, "All right, I'll go in the ambulance." They took me to Fort Payne, Alabama. It was a Thursday afternoon, in ICU, in the emergency room. They started sticking stuff down my throat. Blood started squirting. They tell me I punched somebody. I don't know, but I know that I never got my clothes back. I had money in my pockets. I never got my money. I woke up the next morning in ICU with a guard on me. And I was only allowed, my husband could only visit for 10 minutes in the afternoon. That was
What's ICU?
intensive care unit.
Okay, fine.
Intensive care unit for a little Xanaxes. So they have a man from a local Fort Payne psychological clinic interview me, and he recommended that I be taken to a mental hospital. It was in Decatur, Alabama. I can't remember the name of it. But the order from the judge, because I was court ordered to go to this mental hospital the next day, was faxed on that Thursday night when I was when I was still in the emergency room. It was faxed order, so they already planned it. They already knew that they were going to ship me over to this mental hospital. The next day, on Saturday, a police officer put me in handcuffs in front, walked me through the hospital, put me in the back of the car, drove me 2.5 hours to this, where I had, to be admitted, and I wasn't allowed a phone call for 48 hours, and they were putting me on pills and told me that I have a disorder, and it wasn't a normal life. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they probably implanted me then again, because I'm.
Well, we're going to do a implant scan.
Yay!
But not. We'll do that later.
Okay.
That's to say, we're going to use a variety of radio frequency, electric frequency, magnetic field frequency, things like stud finders, which are useful in giving very rudimentary things if there's something in you, to see if there's something there, and really, if there's anything, start to go in and we'll see.
Right. Well, I had read that there's some military in the United States that were implanted against their will, and a doctor, I saw the video where he was removing them, and they have a class act against the government now because they were implanted without their permission.
Well, there's an awful lot of people in this country with implanted without their permission.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got to get MRI scans and whatever,
right.
body things.
I was going
the kind
to.
of thing I'm talking about is just gives you a few indications.
Right, and so like I said, Alabama. I ended up there. I met him at the very end of 2009. Got married in 4 months of 2010, and left him in April 1st on 2011. That's how long that lasted. How these, like I said, I've had all of these broken marriages. After I left New York in '97, I came. I moved in with my parents. I brought my oldest daughter was already 18. She didn't want to come with me. My two little ones were 5 and 7, and I moved in with my parents, and I didn't put it together until this whole thing that I came into their house, and there's my ex-husband Tom. There's the little one's dad sitting in the living room with my mom and dad. I didn't invite him. I had no clue he was coming, and right after he left, my van ends up blowing a transmission. It was only 50,000 miles on it. And I'm pretty sure that they like to keep you off guard and do these sabotaging things. And I even had a dream with my parents. Both of them were in it. I believe it was an astral dream. And I said, Mom, what did they pay you? And she said $20,000. And back in '62, that would have been good money. And my dad, it was all telepathic, but I said, you did that to my van, didn't you? And he said, yes, I did. So... And I didn't put it together. There was no reason for him to be there. There was no reason for them to be having the secret talk conversations. And Tommy flew, because both my parents died within 5 months of each other. And my dad died 9/9/2001. Tommy flew in the morning of 9/11 to Michigan for the funeral. And and I didn't put it together that that they were also a part of the program, and because Tommy used to always say how great my parents are. Your parents are the most wonderful. Well, of course, to anybody who's abiding by the program, they're going to be encouraging each other. And my parents, they both died without ever confessing to me. I mean, my mom gave me the Bible when she got very sick in the end. And I just asked her if I could have this Bible. It was a big, thick, gold, 1950s written King James, but it really helped me because I think I mentioned that last altar of mine was the Christian one, where once I heard about the Antichrist, I was reading the Bible because I would always read the Bible, like for the last 20 years. Say today is the 21st is today?
Yeah, today's the 21st.
21st. I would read Proverb 21. And I would go to Psalm 21, or just read and read. And I was confirmed Lutheran. I went to catechism for 3 years, hours once a week for 4 hours, and confirmed my faith in God, and had the little Christian cross. And throughout my career in New York, I would find prayer groups on lunch hour and go 3 days a week and pray with these people and read the Bible. When this altar kicked in, I could not stop reading the Bible for 8 to 10 hours a day, every day. And that was insane. But I went right back to the beginning, started rereading the whole thing, and found out that Christianity is a lie, basically.
What made you believe in that? What was the crucial point where you suddenly realized that?
That the Christians are leading their people astray with probably when I put it together that the Sabbath day is the worship day. When I read in Jeremiah and 2 times in Isaiah the cockatrice, in Jeremiah he says, "Behold, I'll send serpents and cockatrices among you, and they will not be charmed." Well, cockatrice is a reptile egg. Yeah. And in Isaiah, he describes it further with big wings, the fury cockatrice. And of course, did they teach me any of that? No. They were all like, Jesus Christ is good. He's a peacemaker. When there's scripture where he says, that you think I came to make peace? Nay. I came to take a household of 5, and 3 will go against 2, and 2 will go against 3. And that's in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, he talks about, God talks about your enemies will be, the mother will go against the daughter, this daughter will go against the mother, the father against the son. Your enemies will be in your own household. And I was not taught any of the evil that's around us that we need protection from. All that time I was being the Christian, going to church on Sunday. I got rebaptized at Brooklyn Tabernacle in my 30s, and now I won't even go to church on Sunday. I won't even go into a church.
Now what about the Sabbath? You were saying something.
Oh, the Sabbath. Well, in the Psalms, his people were crying out, I know your commandments, I know your precepts, I know your testimonies, I know your judgments. So I went right back to the beginning and read it from cover to cover. And in Isaiah and in Ezekiel, there's whole chapters against his people, with Yahuwah complaining about his people, Sabbath breaking. Then there's the blessings of keeping the Sabbath. And the Sabbath is the 4th commandment. And also in the New Testament, there's the Pharisees and the scribes who are arguing with Jesus Christ, Yahushua, about the Sabbath and if he can heal on the Sabbath. And one of the profound scriptures that I found was in Luke 4:16, where he went to Nazareth and went to teach at the synagogue on the Sabbath, as was his habit, as was his custom in some of the books. And also, within that, after that, like 4:22 and stuff, he quotes from Isaiah and says that he's come to free the captives and to release the prisoners. And that's why I think that we're in the end time. And if that's where I know that I go to the source.
So why do you think we're in the end times?
Oh, because this has been going on for so long. I mean, if he says from henceforth this is what's going to be, so he wrote that 2,000 years ago. Well, we've been going through this for lifetime after lifetime. It has to end. The truth
Now,
has to be
you have
revealed.
read. Now, you don't believe in Christianity per se,
Right, but I
you have
believe in the
read
Word.
scriptures. You've
I
read
do.
what, a lot.
A lot
Yeah,
of the scripture.
What have you? You've been reading the Bible how many times? And what other things have you been reading?
With the Bible, there's a lot of information. If you read Job, for instance, I've read Job probably 10 times. Most
Why
Christians,
did you suddenly switch to? I mean, you're not believing in Christianity.
but I believe in
But
the Word.
could you explain all that?
Because the Christianity destroyed any spirituality. They want you
Now, how
to.
can you say that? Explain.
Well, the Christians don't believe in meditating. When meditation is, Isaac was in the field meditating. It's right in there, meditating when they brought Rebecca to him on the camels. In the Psalms, they say, I meditate on your word day and night. You talk to any Christians or pastors or Jehovah Witnesses, oh my goodness, they're like, I told this Jehovah Witness that I'm going to be getting certified to teach yoga. She says, you can't do that. You're opening the door to Satan. I said, Satan's been on my back my whole life. I'm not worried about yoga when I bring in Satan. Or I was doing a hunger walk up in Clare County where I had my house. And it was at a Catholic church. So I had a really nice conversation. We were sharing scripture and stuff with another Christian, a Catholic. And once I mentioned I was going to be certified in yoga, she said, you can't do that. And she stopped talking to me. The Christianity makes you think that astrology is evil.
Yeah.
Right. And in Job chapter 38, Yahuwah says, canst thou control the Mazzaroth and the seasons? Well, the Mazzaroth is the Hebrew word for zodiac. So Yahuwah says the zodiac right in the Bible, but yet Christianity tells you, oh, that's evil. When astrology is a big part of evolution and the planets and I call Sabbath the Saturday the Saturn day because it's really they're aliens.
Explain that. I mean, Saturn. A lot of the religions have been focus on Saturn, which is Satan.
Right.
There's that.
Yeah, and in Job.
So what I want to understand is, you've gone from all this trauma and you've been reading all these texts. You've been reading more than the Bible.
I read most of David Icke's books. I read Robert Monroe books. I read Whitley Strieber books. I can't even remember the ones. Awesome. Some of them, when I would listen to a speaker.
Have you read any of the Gnostic
I read all the Gnostics. I read the Book of Enoch. I read the Zechariah Sitchin, Michael Tellinger, The Slave Species of the Gods. That's a great book. That's a great book. I could not stop getting information. I would listen to a video in these books, and I'd write it down, and I'd order them from the library. And sometimes I'd have to wait because there wouldn't be a copy available. But I've been blessed with Social Security. That's a system of the United States where I had the time to do this, and that was all planned too. That's all. They like I said, I really believe that they know who's going to wake up. They know the people. They know you before you ever come in because there's archons, and there's a book called Many Masters, Many Lives by Brian L. Weiss. And she regressed into her other lives. And in between there, she would wait for the masters to come. And they would go through her life, and they would help her to supposedly evolve into a better person. Well, if they could do that, then they can also ruin your life just as well. They had to know my personality, what kind of person I was, and how easily I could be mind controlled. I mean, I was one of the most naive persons. My mother even said to me once, Sandy, if these men told you the moon was made of cheese, you'd believe them. And that's how I was.
So what made you change?
What do you mean?
What was the critical time where what made you wake up? What happened when you woke up? What was the key thing which made
I was standing in my
suddenly
kitchen.
realize?
I was standing in my kitchen, and I was reading the Bible, and I went, and it was like a bag was taken off my head, and I must have been, and I felt an energy field come through. And first thing I said was, the government wants me dead. That was the first thing, and it kind of blew me away. For, like David Icke said, for months after he had his experience in Peru, he didn't know what his name was. You really, it was
What
really
were you
profound.
reading in the Bible, which
I was reading the Psalm, and I'm going to go ahead and be honest, because I still to this day will smoke a little weed. And I had smoked a little bit of weed, opened the Bible, and whether the weed did, I don't think so. I think it was the energy. But it was like, oh my God. And then I had this astral dream with my mom, and she was like, when we were together, and she said, Sandy, the government's after you. You got to go. You got to run. And I went, okay, I'm out of here. And I started running, and I woke up. But I never, those dreams are astral.
you've mentioned an awful lot of people in your life, pretty serious things you've said about them. I mean, how do you think they're going to feel about that? I mean, you want this public, right?
I do. And I will take a lie detector test. I have absolutely no reason to lie. I have no reason to want negative attention. I would not have chosen this life for myself. I didn't have a choice. They took my free will away. And now I think that I'm alive because I am annoyed. If there is 144,000, whatever the rapture, which is not going to be a bunch of Christians, it's going to be the people who are viable, who are going to go and be able to evolve. The rest are going to get recycled. I know I'm going. I know to go to the light. You know, I'm not going to, like I say, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go to the light. Do not let them trick you. And if you don't repent, there's where you're in trouble. Because you go through and you end up doing your life review, and you're like, I didn't realize that I caused that person that trauma. I did some horrible things that I had not recognized until the awakening. I stole a pocketbook from somebody when I was down and out in New York a long, long time ago. And
What book?
A purse.
Right.
Yeah. I could have actually approached the person and said, you know, I'm really broke, and I just got my wallet stolen, because my wallet had gotten stolen. And instead, I scoped it out, and I went through the bar, and I picked it up, and I walked out, and there was $200 in there. You know the trauma I caused that gal? I had no empathy then. Now I'm like, oh Lord, if I could, you know, approach her or give her the money back. You can't bring back the trauma though. Things like that if I wouldn't have remembered, and then you go through your life review, they're going to tell you, oh, you were a Christian, you go up there to that Christian heaven. Robert Monroe had many out-of-body experiences, and he had what he called his inspect that guided him through.
Just for people who don't know who Robert Monroe is, could you? Is that the
Yeah,
Monroe Institute?
he actually, the Monroe Institute in New York City, which I'd like to go there. He started having the out-of-body experiences in the 50s, and so he kind of perfected how to do it, and he wrote books, and he said that you need to get out of a belief system, because what they do, most people are only preoccupied with living this life, not even thinking about what happens after you pass. So you get over there and you're confused. Well, these other entities will tell you, where you're an American, you're a Christian American, you go over to this Christian heaven. You're a Muslim, you go over there. You know, they have different. Yahushua said, "There's many mansions in my Father's house. If it were not true, I would not tell you." That's the dimensions. There's many dimensions. And some of the spirits that I've had contact with said that they were up in the top dimensions and had to come down to be able to contact somebody who has the open, who they can, which is me. Or there's others, obviously. There's many.
I mean, could you go into all these other beings you're talking about?
For instance, a friend that I met a couple months ago, I said right away, I think I might have already repeated it. I've had probably 30 experiences where somebody would be like, I want you to contact my daughter, and I'm like, oh, I can't remember your daughter's name, and it was like, well, it's Kendra, and I'm saying Kendrick, and he's like, no, it's Kendra Brooks. I know my daughter's name. Well, I called the people at the firm, because that was he was the head of the law firm that worked there that contacted me, and I said, what was Ernie's daughter's name? And he's Kendra. It's happened many times, and so it can't be my imagination. I wasn't even thinking about Ernie Brooks, or a guy that when I was in New York was a really good friend of Thomas, my second husband, and he came through, and we were seeing. I could see his it's all telepathic, and Debbie, his wife, and then his son Michael Jr. Right, and then we saw the baby that I was at the christening for her, and we were there together. And I'm like, Boo, his nickname was Boo Boo, his name was Michael. I said, I can't remember her name. So he showed me Nikki and Mia. And I was like, I can't go ahead and text Tommy if I don't even know your daughter's name. So the next day he came through and he goes, no, it's Nina. So if you put the beginning of Nikki together and Mia, it's Nina. So that gave me the encouragement to text Tommy in New York, and I said, is Boo Boo's daughter's name Nina? And he said, yeah, why? I said, well, he's alive and well, and Boo Boo kind of gave me telepathically my heads up on what was going on in New York with me. It's hard to explain. And I've actually felt the spirit of John Lennon, and
What do you mean by that exactly?
All right, I was sitting in my living room one evening, just on my computer, and I started feeling. Actually, for a couple weeks before that, I kind of felt John. I kind of knew it was John Lennon around, and I would hear that. I'd walk in a store and there'd be Imagine playing. Put my radio on, Imagine would play, and what a great song. So I knew that he was around, but I was thinking that you might be just wishing it. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, there was all these Vietnam soldiers, and that right away, it's Agent Orange, Project Popeye, the false flag, whatever that I don't remember the name of what they got us into that war, but it was clear that these guys.
You're talking about Vietnam War?
Yes, the Vietnam War. It was all
Agent Orange.
Agent Orange was what the government sprayed on the soldiers. Project Popeye is when they made it rain on the soldiers for 70 days. You ever see Forrest Gump when he goes, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained? Well, guess what? I found out. I had already just read about Project Popeye, but these guys were all confirming that they lived it. And my government did that to their own soldiers. And so I had all that, and then they started cheering, and I knew it was John Lennon's spirit that came through, that was there. And they were saying, he's our hero, he's our leader. And I never was a huge fan of John Lennon. I mean, I knew that some of his songs, and I knew that he had Sean with Yoko and another child, Julian, with his first wife. Well, John's there, and he's right away shows me the spirit of a man, and he said, my son John Ono Lennon. That's how it came out, John Ono Lennon. And I'm thinking, I don't remember you having a son named John, but then it went on, and he showed me playing with Sean, and I recognized Sean, the dark hair, and he was a child, and they're in the water splashing and playing, and he's like, tell him about all of our swimming fun, remind him of all that. Then the next scene, he shows me Julian, and they're in the studio, and they're making the music, they're making a song. So, after the experience, everything's, I knew that he was gone, and I went ahead and started Googling and reading about John Lennon. Well, it turns out that him and Yoko got together before he was even split up from the first wife, and she ended up getting pregnant, Yoko did, and they had a son named John Ono Lennon. That explains the first spirit. Then I'm reading on, and he's talking about how he was the main parent for Sean, because Yoko didn't want another child. She's like, I would rather, you're going to be taking care of him. And he says in the end of that part, and besides, I taught him how to swim like a fish. And the goosebumps went right up on my arms. I said, that's why he was so adamant on the swimming. And then I'm reading on, and Julian is quoted as saying, the best times with my father when we were in the studio making music. So to me, that pretty much confirmed it. I've felt Whitney Houston before. I've felt Robin Williams kind of came through, and he's like, I know you can't help me, but he just was, it was his spirit. And
What do you mean you've felt these spirits? I mean, this imagination or a fantasy or what?
It can't be a fantasy because I'm not even thinking about them. I have no fantasies on hero. I have no hero worship.
What you would? Why would that happen? Why would they come to you like that?
Because they can. I definitely have felt John, and then with him was Martin Luther King, and Martin was basically saying he's not going to be able to, I would never be able to contact anybody for him. So there's no reason to do it. Like I said, most of these contacts has been people's cousin would come through. I was with this other friend.
Now the thing about this is, you're talking about other people, normal people, and the people, the relatives have confirmed this, that the details are checking out.
Yes. I was with a friend, Todd, and we were at a get together. He invited me to his family get together, and his niece was up there doing a little presentation for us. She was so cute. 2nd grade, learning Mandarin in America. All of a sudden, I felt his mom. And they were telling me, Cindy, your aura's changing. You're turning red and green. And I didn't even say anything that I felt the mom. And I went home, and there she came back again. And I was like, well, what's your name? And so she's like, my name is Janie. And I said, are you saying Jeannie or Janie? Because I know he has this friend that's Jeannie. And she said, Mary. And I said, well, that's Todd's sister-in-law. Well, the next day I had to go back over there. So I said to the sister-in-law, I said, what is Todd and her husband's Paul? What is their mom's name? She said, Janie Mary. Just like that. Janie Mary. I said, that's what she was saying. And she also said to me, just always keep the laughter. And she was telling, please tell Todd to please wake up. It's for his daughters, it's for his nieces and nephews, to make it a better place for them. She's like, I didn't know. She was wonderful. And she said, always keep the laughter. And then my friend Todd texted me, always keep the laughter, right at the same time. And these type of things happen too. Plus, I've had, confirmed, your dad's name is this, or the daughter of Michael. It was Nina. I'm not making it up. I wasn't even thinking about Boo Boo at the time. This guy died in New York. I left in '97. I remember hearing a phone call from my ex telling me that Boo Boo had a heart attack. He was only 40-some years old. And I wasn't thinking about him. I have no reason to make this up. It's been very exhausting.
But this has been confirmed with
the people.
Yeah.
Yes. And now because John came in so clearly, I actually did try to send an email to Yoko's website and told her about it, but I never got a response.
Do you think this is like voice to skull stuff? You're being messed around with synthetic telepathy, stuff like this?
I'm wondering if it could be.
What do you feel about that?
Could you repeat that?
Do you think it's synthetic telepathy? It's like voices in the head?
They're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
They get you to think you're contacting
exactly
these stars. I always get suspicious about this, that John Lennon's going to come down to you. Jesus
Why?
Christ,
right.
Or
Little
Napoleon
Sandy.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think anything's possible at this point. They're using me, obviously. The mind control is so strong, it makes me question almost everything. I have to question everything. And I've often wondered if this is actually, because I've heard that you'll end up with these PSI's abilities when they electroshock your brain, because they do something to it, and later on you'll end up with it. Like I said, I wasn't having this until December 2012. And I don't know. I would think though, because I've had so many names right. Like I have a nephew, Thomas, in Michigan.
Well, before you start on that story,
Mm-hmm.
the sun is moving around the sky. And
Mm.
we're coming to the end of part 2.
Okay.
And we'll reset slightly,
Okay.
and then we'll continue with that point. Essentially, synthetic telepathy and being in contact with the likes of John Lennon does sound as if you've been taken for a ride by somebody.
Possibly. Yeah, and then I read that afterwards, and maybe like they can alter your computer. They can.
Well, they can access that.
Yeah, and I've had computers crash when I was writing
Well,
97.
certainly that hasn't happened to me or anybody else. It must only be you that you've had a computer crash, because all these computer products, without mentioning brand names, always work, he said sarcastically. Well, we'll close on part 2.
Okay.
And really, we need to drill down to really in part 3 what's the bottom line you want to get across. But this is the Basis Project, Basis 44 in the sunshine in an English country garden.
Beautiful.
With an American from it's not Minnesota, it's
Michigan.
Michigan, not Michigan.
Michigan. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Great. We'll reset because that's all got